Thank you so much for listening to another episode of CXChronicles podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Brady Chizana. Super excited for today's episode, guys. We have a really, really awesome guest with us, Mr. Patrick McCullough, president of Hallmark Business Connections. Patrick, say hello to the CX Nation, my friend.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, Patrick, I loved our chat the other day, man. You've got, so number one, just a super cool business and super cool team that you're leading today at Hallmark Business Connections. And I know we're both excited to dive into a bunch of the things that you guys are doing with your customers, helping their customers. But before we even get there, my friend, take a couple minutes, set the stage, say hello to the CX Nation, let them know who you are, let them know how you got into this work that you do today at Hallmark, and give us the stepping stones question, like some of the things that you did leading up into your career to become the president at Hallmark Business Connections.
Sure. Very good. Well, it's good to be here, and I appreciate you having me on to tell a little bit of this story about what Hallmark Business Connections is doing. And in terms of myself, I come from the marketing and advertising world. That was what I went to school for. When I came out of school, that's the field that I immediately went and worked in. And to be honest, I loved it. And I worked primarily at a digital agency at the time, which did a lot of really interesting and unique things. But Hallmark actually reached out to me and recruited me to come join this business called Hallmark Business Connections, which at the time I'd never heard of and really didn't have much of any idea what in the world they did, but thought it sounded like an interesting thing and figured I'd take a jump. And so I took a role leading our client teams here at Hallmark Business Connections. That was almost 10 years ago. And it was just such an interesting business from the jump, right? And to find out the level of connection that we had with our customers, the history in the business, that almost at the time that would have been 20 years of history behind the Hallmark Business Connections name. And then obviously the legacy of the brand that you get to carry every single day. And I kind of fell in love with the business from the jump. And admittedly, it's a business that is different than my background, but it's still fairly similar, right? Marketing and advertising has a lot of similarity to what we do at Hallmark Business Connections and helping our customers build better relationships with their customers and with their employees. So that it was a good fit at the end of the day. And my time at Hallmark Business Connections has been wonderful. I've just continued to have new opportunities along the way, and I've led our sales teams and our marketing teams and digital commerce teams. And a few years ago, Hallmark asked me to go ahead and take over the show, and it's been a really wonderful ride the last couple of years as the president of the organization.
Number one, that's fantastic. So, Patrick, thanks for sharing that. It's funny, you guys. You think of Hallmark, what do we all think about? We all think about. Well, I know you guys probably just had a really big weekend just a few weekends ago, because I had to run to the store and get a couple Mother's Day cards, for example. So, you think of Hallmark traditionally, you think about Mother's Day cards, Father's Day cards, Happy Birthday cards, all anniversary, all the stuff. You don't necessarily, and I know you're going to dive into the story here, but like you don't necessarily think about, well, how's Hallmark Business Connections work, and how does Hallmark help business? And what you guys are doing is super cool. By the way, on the advertising side, it makes a ton of sense. At the end of the day, what you guys are helping your clients with today, you're right, Patrick. It really is. It's getting the word out to your clients, customers, about whatever it is that they need. It could be a thank you for a milestone on being a customer for X number of years. It could be a milestone for thanks for spending above X, or whatever it is. All these companies have different reasons for using this stuff. But it's a super cool business, and it's funny. You and I were joking before we jumped into the recording, talking about AI, and you just got back from a conference, and the whole world is fascinated and intrigued and scared and curious about AI. But this is one of those older school type of mediums that still works. It still has an incredible bang for its buck. And the reality is, in the right circumstances, sometimes even in the world of tech, and digital everything, and all of us being buried onto our phones all damn day, it's kind of nice just to get a card sometimes. It's kind of nice to come home, get the damn mail out of the mailbox, and then you've got a mail from whomever, whether it's a client or whether it's a teammate or whether it's whatever, a family member. So super, super interesting that Hallmark was able to kind of realize there's this huge space that they can help companies across the world kind of think about. Patrick, give us a sense for like what's some of the common stuff that you guys are doing, or what are some of the common client services that you're really kind of working on with the team? Like what are some of the common use cases, or if you're able to share, what type of companies are leveraging Hallmark Business Connections to get the word out about all the things that they want to get the word out to their customers or to their employees or to the people that they need to share a message with?
Sure, sure. To start with, 2025, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary as a company. We've been around for right about 30 years. And over those 30 years, the business has changed and evolved a good bit. We've been in different spaces and places. If you asked me this question 10 years ago, you'd get a slightly different answer. If you asked it 10 years before that, you get a different answer again. But the core of it has always been the same, right? So people come to us, clients, mostly larger companies, Fortune 1000, if you will, kind of size, and they say, we need help building better relationships with our customers and our employees, and we'd like to use the Hallmark brand and Hallmark products and services to help us do that, right? It's very much a brand partnership play when customers are coming to us, clients are coming to us to try to and build better relationships. So, the most common use cases these days are, if you think about all of the different life touch points and business touch points that exist when you're building relationships, right? All of those different touch points could have applicability. What it comes down to is, for our enterprise customers, what are they trying to do? What is their underlying strategy? And then our products and services are going to be a tool within their toolkit to go and try to achieve that strategy. So, as an example, we work with a lot of very large property casualty insurers. Those brands are constantly looking to differentiate their brand, their services. They want to make sure that they show up in a really human, neighborly kind of way. And so they come to us and say, hey, we'd like to make sure that all of our frontline associates are saying happy birthday and saying thank you for your business and saying, hey, happy Thanksgiving, happy Merry Christmas, happy New Year, etc., whatever it might be during the holiday season. And Hallmark, we think you can help us do that, and we can, right? That's the exact thing that we can do, and the real benefit of our products and services for those large kinds of property casualty insurers or financial advisory firms, etc., is that we can provide the same level of personal touch, whether we're sending one card or e-card or providing a relatively small or narrow service, or if we're doing it at significant scale, right? And we're sending literally millions and millions and millions of cards or e-cards or other types of digital services. Both are going to have a really human touch, and to the recipient, they're going to feel personalized and specifically for them. That's kind of the magic of the products and services that we've developed over the years, is that folks can work with us to achieve that level of unique personal touch and relationship building at scale. And they can do it in a really cost efficient way. Again, no one hires Hallmark to be their agency of record. To be honest, we used to be in that business a few decades ago. They use us as a tool in their toolkit, and they use all of the underlying services that we have to offer to make sure that they're achieving their goals. And it's been a wonderful business. And to your point about AI, I used AI all day yesterday. I was constantly using my AI tools and the different agents that I have available to me. Hallmark is not going to stand in the way of AI. We love AI. We think it's a wonderful enabler, and we don't think that it changes the relationship that businesses have with our products. To be honest, Hallmark Business Connections has almost doubled in size over the last 5-6 years in terms of client billings and our revenues.
Wow.
And customers are coming to us more and more and more saying, this is a unique
It's
product that
unique.
can
It's
help to
different.
make sure, yeah, exactly, can make sure that our message is going to get in front of our customers and our employees, right? I can send an email, I can send an SMS, I can send a push notification, right? Or I can put my message into a Hallmark card. I can put it in that wrapper of a wonderful relationship building touch point. And if I do that, I can be fairly sure it's going to get read. It's more likely to be understood. And thus, if you're trying to ask a customer to take an action, they're much more
Yep.
likely to do so, right? So the business is in a wonderful position. And frankly, all the new innovations we see today are great enablers for us.
I love it. I'm looking at the hallmarkbusiness.com right now, Patrick, and millennials are 2 times as likely to feel noticed by getting a card. That makes it eight
Exactly.
out of 10 millennials and Gen Xers would prefer to see a card too. So it's like, it's funny. Like, in this one last one, 76% more engagement when supervisors recognize the hard work of their customer service staff does. It makes sense, man. Like, we live in
Yeah.
this world where everybody's used to just getting messages here, getting messages on their work laptop or their personal laptop. We're all getting blown up with digital messages all damn day, whether we even realize it or not. It is nice just to get a card. I think the other thing too is, one thing I want to hit on before we jump into the pillars is, like, having built and having led many customer facing teams. I remember years ago, Patrick, like, something bad would happen or something good would happen, or maybe there was a product or a service disruption. And I would say to my team, hey, here's X amount of dollars. Go ahead and do a personalized touch right now, because obviously we know what our customers are worth. We know what they're valued. We know when we screw up and we got to make amends. And I remember like 10 years ago, people would be like, wait, you want me to like send something? And I was like, yeah, do something personalized. And to your point about all of these touches and understanding a user journey or a customer journey and all the milestone moments or all the ebbs and the flows that a customer might go through, man, I'll tell you guys, like moving forward, as much as everything is going to get changed by AI and as much as everything is going to keep moving into a tech forward and a digital world, it's going to be really important, and the uniqueness, borrowing your word here, but the uniqueness of being different and doing something physical, tangible. Pretty cool, man. Pretty cool. Real quick too, Patrick. Go ahead, jump in.
No, I was just going to say real quick. I think that one fact that I always like to put in front of folks about the idea of like greeting cards and old school mediums like this, because there is often a conversation about it. Is like, is this still viable? We do a ton of research on this, as you might imagine, right? Hallmark in general wants to know the answer to this question of, is this still a viable product and medium? And to your point, the stats that you just read off are obviously great proof points of that, right? Millennials and Gen Z still very much find value in it. But I'll give you one more. When it comes to the product utilization, it is true that the greeting card industry in general is in broader decline. That has been true for decades now. That's no one's questioning that. But the thing that's remained remarkably constant actually is the participation in the category. So my grandparents and parents, 80% of households within that age range or within that demographic participate in the category. They buy and send greeting cards. Roughly the same is true for Gen X, millennials, and now Gen Z as they come into their economic age and start participating in these different categories. The participation rate is the same. They buy and send greeting cards. They love doing it. The question is how many, right? So my grandparents and parents might have sent dozens of cards a year, in part because it was more of a tradition and the communication mediums maybe they grew up with were different than what we have available to us today. But certainly it still is very much a viable product and service, and the data has just been like incredibly consistent on that over time. What we find is that the Hallmark brand is also still one of the best resonating factors into why this works, right? Like when companies come to us, they know and we know that they are there and here, if you will, in this relationship to use a Hallmark card and a Hallmark branded product or service to connect with their customers. And they want to be seen as doing business with Hallmark because they think that's going to give them a lift. And we don't shy away from that, right? I mean, when, Comcast Cable calls us and says, we want to work with you, we know why they're calling us, right? It's not a question. And that's okay. That's why we are here. That's why the product and service exists. And we're more than happy to help them try to build those better relationships.
I love it. Patrick, before we jump into because I want to learn about your team and I want you to spend a couple minutes talking about team. But before I do that, I told you I was going to share this one story. Not just Comcast. There are some companies that understand the differentiator. Or sorry, not just companies the size and the gravitas of Comcast. But guys, I was telling Patrick when we were chatting the other day, at one of the companies that I worked at years ago in New York City, H Bloom, we and number one, I wish I knew Patrick back then, because it would have made that whole period and the thing that I'm about to share much easier, much simpler, because you guys are professionals and experts at it. But we had a big end of year. Ralph Lauren wanted to do these triple stem beautiful orchids and send them across to all their biggest buyers in New York City. So the fashion buyers, people that were working in apparel and fashion shops, they were probably buying a ton of Ralph stuff and doing whatever they were with it. So we had thousands of these triple stem orchids that we had to deliver all across Manhattan and New Jersey. And part of that, the orchids were easy for us as a flower business. The hard part, I was telling Patrick, guys, we literally had to have a team of part-time staff coming in for, I don't remember exactly what it was, Patrick, but I think it was at least a few weeks, because they were doing handwritten, beautiful, and that's stuff that you guys can do relatively easy. Back then, it was a little bit difficult, but like what all the feedback that we got from that whole Ralph Lauren project, everybody always loved the orchids. People were blown away by the fact that you could tell it was a personalized handwritten note with a thank you for for what they had done for that year. So this stuff works, guys. This stuff works. Here's the other thought too. Smaller businesses, when's the last time you sent one of your brand new customers, or when's the last time you sent one of your best customers some personalized touch, like a handwritten card, or like a Hallmark type of business connection card, just saying thank you for whatever. It could be thank you for the 1 year of business. It could be thank you for the big order. It could be, and then guys, for some of our contact center listeners who are managing 100 people on a call floor every day, flip this right to the EX side too, right, Patrick? start sending these personalized things to your people, man, your employees, the guys and gals that are working the phones and working the front line every damn day. People appreciate this stuff, man. It's just a different thing. So, but Patrick, let's jump into the first pillar team. Can you spend a couple minutes just kind of talking about over the last 10 years? Give us a sense for some of the teams, departments, roles that you had to kind of put together on the pitch to be able to build out your team at Hallmark Business Connections.
Yeah, broadly speaking, Hallmark Business Connections is mostly structured like an agency. It's we have our client teams, we have creative teams, we've got production and project management, right? All the things that you'd expect to have that make our kind of a business flow. The thing that has also been appended onto that over the last 10 years has been a growing digital practice, right? So we've now not only owned and developed a bunch of really smart digital tools, which I'm sure we'll talk about, but now also have a whole digital products group and full staff development team who's continuously building on those tools that has really started to differentiate, frankly, our business within this space. In the past, when folks would work with us, I think our capabilities probably looked a lot like a traditional print agency, and there wasn't a ton of additional differentiation. Now, when we go to market and we talk with our customers about the different products and services that we have available, they tell us that we're pretty unique in the stack that we have, and the rate that we continue to build and improve on those products and tools continues to be pretty remarkable. But it's a team of about 100, give or take, today. It's a nice sized business, and the beauty of being Hallmark Business Connections is we're embedded. We're a subsidiary. We're a U.S. subsidiary of the Hallmark Cards company, but we're also very much embedded within the broader enterprise. So while they're not sitting specifically on our team, we have access to all of the underlying creative resources that Hallmark has and those tools, access to all of their research, including trend information, which is just incredibly rich and in-depth information, not to mention all sorts of other types of marketing and category and product sourcing and supply chain and all those kinds of things, which is a wonderful benefit to us as well. So it's a dynamic business in many different ways.
That's super cool, Patrick. When you started at Hallmark, and before you rose to being knighted to take over and to run the show as the president, was there like one or two core areas that you knew unequivocally just from looking at the future and using the old Wayne Gretzky analogy of going where the puck's gonna not where the puck is but where it's gonna be, right? Was there like one or two additions to the team that you knew the minute that you had the opportunity you were going to put in place, just kind of seeing this business, learning sort of where Hallmark was, knowing where you had to bring the business, and if so, what were they, and what were some of the things that you knew that right away you wanted to start adding in or starting to invest in to build out the team or to grow the team?
Sure. And I don't want to take too much credit for this because we've got an incredible crew at Hallmark Business Connections that works incredibly hard. And I try as best I can to amplify really wonderful ideas that the team has and bring them to life consistently. And so I'll give them all of the credit in terms of the progress and growth that we've had. I think the two areas, though, that we most clearly identified as a team that needed to improve were what I'll call scale efficiency and digital products. So we were increasingly seeing that customers were coming to us with a wider array of project sizes and complexities that we were going to need to be able to solve for, both physical and digital, if you will. And so that necessitated some changes in the way that we operate our operations team, our distribution, our fulfillment center, all of those kinds of things, and expanding that. And we actually ended up just moving it to a larger space within the last couple of years as well, and that's paid some dividends for us, and that anticipation of it becoming a different kind of organization ended up coming true. And the other piece, like I said, was the digital products team, right? We've always had a set of digital solutions and underlying digital products and capabilities that embed and improve our business, but there was a need to really specifically focus on that space to make sure that we were continuing to improve and iterate and expand that product set. And I've got several folks who've worked with me over the years. Tiffany Edwards is our digital products owner and leads that digital products team. And I've had the extreme pleasure of working with her both at Hallmark as well as at some previous stops before. Her and Zach Kahn, who's leads IT and software development for us at Hallmark Business Connections, are both really wonderful people, incredibly talented in what they do. And that dynamic for us that I have seen has been the biggest evolution for this business. Again, it's not that we're getting into being we're not trying to compete with like Salesforce or something like that. We're not trying to become a pure digital player or software play. We view
Yeah.
software and digital tools, yeah, as being enabling capabilities for us and for our clients, and they make all of our underlying core products and services better, more accessible, more dynamic. And that's come true, and it continues. We continue to build and build and build, and that's the most exciting thing for our business every single day when I think our teams come to work.
I love it. Before we jump off of team, where are y'all located? And you just mentioned
Sure.
moving to a bigger facility, and then I imagine you've got
Sure.
staff that's everywhere. I'm sure that you guys have the luxury of being hybrid or sometimes in person. But where are you guys located?
Yeah, good question. So Hallmark, the corporation, is headquartered in Kansas City. It was founded in Kansas City originally, and it still is there today. I'd say Hallmark Business Connections is also headquartered in Kansas City. Roughly, I'd say 2/3 of our staff is located in Kansas City as well. Our
Okay.
our manufacturing, fulfillment, personalization, distribution footprint is in the broader Kansas City area as well. That's where we moved it to. We also have some folks who work remote, of course, and they come in and travel and see our team in Kansas City as well. And then we have a legacy group in Minneapolis that is our software development and IT group, and they've been there for a number of years. They were kind of founded there as a part of a different business we used to own many years ago, and we decided we loved the team so much, and they were so comfortable in Minneapolis. It's like, let's just leave you guys there, and you can continue to do your great work in Minneapolis. So those two cities, Minneapolis and Kansas City. That's our primary footprint. And we work hybrid. We, like everybody these days, we're in office, at least one, if not multiple days a week across all of our offices to make sure that we're staying connected. Culture is a huge thing at Hallmark
Yep.
and Hallmark Business Connections, and we're very intentional about having an intentional culture. But we also want to make sure our teams still have a ton of flexibility to do their work in the space that makes sense for them and make sure they can take care of their family and all that kind of stuff. So, as you can imagine, these days, how these things go, folks are in and out fairly frequently, and that's worked out well for us.
I love it. Look. The bottom line is this: some companies and some industries can thrive in this modern way of working. Some companies, some industries, and some executive leadership or ownership groups, they like it the traditional way, right? And it is what it
Yeah.
is. I think, guys, what we're seeing right now is the world is about to be completely disrupted by guys and gals sitting at home in their basketball shorts, coding and engineering and developing and iterating and pitching and pivoting and then connecting with people like us that can make it all come to market and come to the customers, world. So it's like, it's funny. I ask this question a lot because there's a lot of people that are going. There's like this mix right now, Patrick. Some people are going back. Some people are absolutely not. We've never been more profitable. We've never been better. We've never had a higher employee. And I just keep asking the question because I'm trying to understand where are people kind of sliding into. And then I'm not surprised because your customers are all across the world, so it doesn't
Yeah.
matter whether you're in Kansas City, Minneapolis, Buffalo. It doesn't matter. Wait, one quick question: who buys lunch when the Vikings and the Chiefs have to play and the winner? Is that a thing or not? Not really.
Well, yeah, they don't play too often, thankfully, that which keeps everyone in relative sanity. But yeah,
Hey, Patrick, remember you're
there's no
talking to a
doubt there's
Buffalo
both.
Bills fan right now, so we need the Chiefs to play in the NFC games a little bit more frequently, man.
Completely understandable. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, Kansas City certainly has had a wonderful run. So Kansas City's been happily buying lunch for quite a while now, and we'll see if
Yeah,
that
yeah,
can
yeah,
continue.
yeah.
Yeah,
You'll keep buying lunch as long as Pat keeps winning these things.
I'm good with that deal.
Maybe not this year though. Josh is coming for you, baby. He's coming for you.
We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Um, Patrick, I'd love to dive into tools, man. So you started to plant a seed a second ago. You think about Hallmark. You think about business cards, greeting cards, well-being cards. You don't necessarily jump to like badass, wicked Escalade tech stack. You don't start thinking that, but I'd love to kind of learn what does the tools look like at Hallmark Business Connections, and share what you're able to share, obviously. But like as far as what keeps everything ticking, like number one, are there specific tools that you use for your customer relationship management? Are there specific tools or proprietary software that you guys have built to manage the orders and the actual? You made it very clear, like the digital team is a big part of this. So like spend a couple minutes kind of talking about over your 10 years. Number one, like actually, this is actually about I have a better question. When you came into the business 10 years ago, what's the evolution of the tech stack looked like? Has it been similar? Have there been investments that you've needed to make? If you're able to share, what tools you guys using to keep the trains on the track every single solitary day?
Sure. Well, let me start with just kind of very briefly teeing up when I talk about our underlying products, kind of what the core ones are, because the underlying tech stack underneath them will make sense from that framework. So we generally today, I would say, have four go-to-market products and solutions that our customers use. The first one you've already mentioned is hallmarkbusiness.com, right? It's our offering for small to medium-sized businesses and clients for them to come self-serve on hallmarkbusiness.com and use some core products and services that we have available there, and that works great. And those customers enjoy that experience, and that's been a wonderful business for us. Outside of that, we kind of have three other core enterprise level solutions that we've got some. The naming conventions are relatively simple. We have a software service for call centers that we call Care, which enables frontline reps to very quickly and easily send a card after they have an interaction with a customer within about 30 seconds or less, right? Click, 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 and they can get it out to the customer, and we handle the rest for them.
Patrick, real quick on
Yeah.
that note, I wonder, I've literally had guests talk about that is one, and then you already said this, a tool that they pull out of their toolkit. Be interesting to see how many of those folks on this show that have brought that up over
Yeah.
the years are one of your customers.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. I would guess that you might have at least a few. So Care is a wonderful platform. We've had that now for about 10 years or so, and it's had lots of evolutions. We have a service that we call Connect, which is think of it as a distributed marketing solution, right? So for property casualty groups that have lots of agents around the nation, for financial advisor firms that have, 5, 10, 15, 20,000 advisors spread around the world, different kinds of retailers, right, who've got various locations and owners, those kinds of things. That Connect solution is for them. That makes that distributed marketing access really easy. And then the final one we call Breakthrough. Breakthrough is essentially our direct marketing service, right? So customers coming to us, as an example, a retailer, and saying, "Hey, I'd like to mail 1 million fully customized, personalized Hallmark cards to my customers, and I want to include an offer inside of it. And my goal is to get them to come in the store or to go online and buy, or whatever the action is they're trying to take." So those are the core four products and services, right? So we've got hallmarkbusiness.com, Care, Connect, and Breakthrough. Each one of them both stands on their own technically, but also is supported by a broader architecture and framework that we've built over the years. To your question about how things have changed, what we've tried to do as best we can is to do two things. One, ground ourselves in a simple framework technically that we felt like was scalable. We chose Salesforce Commerce Cloud a number of years ago as the platform that we wanted to use. And that so far that's proven to work well for us. And then by and large, this is not universally true, but it's true 80 to 90% for our products and solutions. We build a headless app on top of that, right? So when a client is interacting with our Care solution, as an example, that's a custom application that we've built that's living in the web, and it's dynamic. And ultimately, the underlying functions underneath it are going to run through Commerce Cloud as we look to produce and mail the greeting card, or send the communication, whatever it is that's coming off the backside of it, right?
Patrick, do you mind me asking, like, what type of lift was that, or when you guys made that decision and made that investment, what type of lift was it to get it to work, to get it to connect, to get it to work, to move, and to move cards, and to move the orders, and to move the whole damn process
Yeah.
smoothly? Because and then I'm asking this because I'm trying to dig deeper on these episodes moving forward around understanding not only software investments, but understanding software utilization. And
Yeah.
then before you can get to utilization, what was the implementation like? Was it easy? Was it hard? Did it
Yeah.
take time? Because I think that our listeners are, because of the world we're living in, this is a big point of value that I think our guests can give, is like, here's the things that I learned, or here's the things I would never do again, or here's the things that I would totally do. But for you guys, what was it like to connect those different parts?
There's a couple different pieces to it. First is I think we did the hard work to build the foundation the right way. That took us about, let's say, a year to 18 months to build that initial foundation. This was about 5 or 6 years ago, and on our Salesforce Commerce Cloud architecture. But we wanted to take the time to do it right, because we felt like that would make all of the secondary and tertiary projects we'd have after that much more smooth. And I think at the time it was maybe a difficult decision for us to make, because we wanted to move faster, but it was the right and foundational decision for the business. And thankfully, prioritizing that didn't disrupt the rest of our business. Our clients were still very much engaged with us. We didn't have to take any products offline or delay anything critical for other customers. So it worked out for the business. And then from there, this is why you take this kind of headless architecture approach, because you can build much more efficiently when you have a great foundational layer underneath it. So the construction of the Care app that we use with our contact centers and customer service folks, that That probably took only about 6 months to a year to initially build, and we've iterated on it, excuse me, many times since then, but it is in such a wonderful place as a piece of technology that when we go and just recently we signed up a new, a healthcare client, as an example, who just bought care. They just bought a license for their frontline associates. I think they've got maybe 30 or 40 that they're gonna use that are gonna be embedded in that solution. The process for them to set up on that solution now is just a matter of a few weeks of contract work and making sure we have the underlying configurations right, and then they'll go through training and they're ready to go, right? I mean, the things like single sign-on connection and data integration, those kinds of things is really simple on the back end. But that's only because we took the time initially to build the foundation. That's the advice that, I have a few folks professionally who I work with who have asked about how we've built these different technical components and how it is that we've gotten to the place that we have. And my answer is that you should do the hard things. The hard things are hard for a reason. You
Yeah,
should
yeah,
make
yeah,
sure you
yeah.
do them the right way. And
Yep,
it's just so easy for businesses to take the shortcut on the hard things, right?
yep, yep.
And that only makes the easy things harder down the road, right? And you want to make sure to make sure that the easy things that should move quickly, that shouldn't be embedded and efficient for your business, they stay that way by making sure you get the foundational components right.
It's excellent advice, man. And I cannot tell you how many times we've seen with our clients at CX Chronicles when the opposite happens. And then the client's upset when you find out that the engagement or the project or the lift is
Mhm.
significantly larger than it would have been if certain things would have to your point, if certain foundational matters would have just been built properly or sorted accordingly, or maybe, and guys, this is another one too. Everybody, it's really easy for a lot of our founder listeners and a lot of our listeners that are building or leading their own startup companies that are emerging tomorrow leading companies. It's easy just to go to some of the shiny things. The problem is you got to really, really be intentional about what some of those tools are. And then Patrick, probably better than anyone, you got to be careful over time with any business. Really easy to look backwards over 10 years. And if you're not careful and if you're not very, very strategic and thoughtful about what tools you're adding to the foundation, you can turn around 10 years later and say, holy shit, there's 27 tools that cost a $500,000 a year. And there's 3 to 5 that the entire company uses. And the other 22, nobody's using them and they cost half of that budget. So like there's
Well,
a
that's
lot of different
what's
ways to
that's
think
what's
about
happening
this.
right now, right? That's the story of the enterprise software market literally today, and why that space has been in such turmoil the last 24 to 36 months is because there any number of different enterprise software companies have had success up and until that point selling in all of their solutions. And I think businesses finally over the last couple of years have finally woken up and taken a look at the broader stack that they have and said, I don't know why I have all of this, right? And there's core and to their benefit, players like Microsoft and Salesforce have where they're both the core technologies that practically
Totally,
all of their
totally,
customers
totally.
need, and they
Yep.
also have appendage technologies now and apps and other types of things that are starting to take the place of some additional software. As an example, I've noticed more and more my team, as well as some folks that I work with externally outside of Hallmark, are using Microsoft's new kind of like Schedule Me app that they have. So if you're embedded in Teams and Outlook and those tools, now you have Microsoft's own version of the "Hey, schedule a meeting with me" app. Which how many of those solutions were built over the last 10 years, right? That you can go and grab
A
something
lot
on
of
someone's
them.
schedule. They're all right. They're all now irrelevant from an enterprise software perspective because Microsoft has a free solution. It's part of the bundle, right? So it is an interesting time, but it's part of the reason why when we build software and digital tools at Hallmark, we want to make sure that we're building things that are unique and kind of differentiated in their core value proposition, right? Like we would never think of making something that Microsoft could even in a million years could produce because there's no value to that, right? We want to make something that's truly pure to Hallmark that makes sense for our value proposition, our products and services, and is going to be a value add for our customers, which keeps us in a nice tight lane, right? And keeps
Totally.
us in a smart space.
I love it. I love it. Patrick, let's spend a minute or two talking about process, man. So over the 10 years of running Hallmark Business Connections, you had to have either been writing a playbook or with your leadership team co-authoring a playbook. How did you kind of wrangle process over these last 10 years? Was there maybe, or said another way, is there like one or two tips that you have for our listeners around as the business grew, as the team grew, as the demand grew, right? You guys, you just said that the business has never been healthier.
Right.
How'd you kind of manage your own playbook or said another way, how did you put into your team's hands the ability of co-authoring a playbook so that standard operating procedures and processes and knowledge base and all the tribal knowledge that was floating around in people's heads got chronicled or it got documented somewhere? Spend like a minute or two just talking about process.
Hallmark as an entity didn't become a massive global company without really good process work. It's one of those things that I think is embedded within Hallmark's culture, frankly, is to have very detailed and functional processes to make sure that we're following those processes, that we're reviewing them consistently. I think a lot of companies have red tape, and Hallmark certainly does too. Hallmark, though, tries as best we can, embedded within the culture, to not think about our process work as being red tape, but more as being about accountability, roles and responsibilities, right? RACI charts, those kinds of things, to make sure that we're staying on top of what we need to do, and it works, right? And for us, I think about process as being about um, turning intention into action, right? For our customers,
I
right?
like
So when
that.
we
I like
when
that.
customers
Yep.
come to us, yeah, we need to take our underlying processes and use them to create better outcomes and for our customers at the end of the day, right? And all of our processes should be pointed towards enabling our customers' needs. At the end of the day, they are our number one stakeholder. At the end of the day, that's who we serve first and foremost. And so, just as an example, some of the ways that comes to life, we had a client who was working with us a number of years ago, who was they're actually still a client today. They had a need to try to create a marketing campaign around a swimsuit brand, which is an exceptionally difficult thing to do. And they're primarily selling swimsuits for women, and actually even more specifically, kind of in the all body size category, right? A lot of plus size shapes, or excuse me, a lot of plus size models within the group that they usually use in their marketing. And it's an interesting twist because it's a very difficult thing from a swimsuit perspective to do. People view swimsuits as that they want within the marketing space. They want to see the ideal of how the swimsuit would look, but that doesn't necessarily align with the product that they're going to end up buying at the end of the day. So they came to us with this, and I was proud of the team. The team used our underlying processes to take all of that input from the customer and funnel it through tons of Hallmark research, creative ideation, and information and intelligence, to then come back to the customer and say, here's an idea of how we could present this, right? How we could present all different types of body shapes and sizes, clearly show that we're here supporting a wide range of different types of customer needs. But at the end of the day, also still positioning the brand as a swimsuit brand, right? And as a really high quality retailer and product owner in this space. That output was so good, right? I mean, the end product that we used for that customer was incredible. They loved it. That it did incredibly well as a campaign, which is part of the reason why they're still a customer today. In fact, I think they wanted to reuse that campaign multiple times, and we had to talk them off the ledge. We're like, no, 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 you got to keep iterating. But that's the
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing that
yeah.
we think about, right? We don't want our process to be clients, you have to fit our process, right? That's not how we work. I think about some of the marketing and advertising agencies that I used to work with, either directly or as partners. From time to time, I would wonder to myself if they've forgotten who the client was, and if they had suddenly decided for that, actually, Acme advertising agency was the client, and they're the ones who needed to be served. And Ford or whoever they're working with, where that's just, the client is just the billings that allows us to do what we need to do
Whatever.
as the
Yeah,
as the
right.
superior.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's just not, maybe that's the right way for them to work. I won't judge that business at the end of the day, but for us, that's not how we work at Hallmark Business Connections. Our number one goal is to serve our clients. They're our number one stakeholder at the end of the day. If we're not doing that well in everything that we do, including our underlying processes, we're not going to be doing a good job. And
I,
thankfully, it's core to our beliefs and our values, so it's easy for us to culturally to embrace. But it's been essential as we've developed the business over time.
Look, I couldn't agree with that more because it's not just Acme agency, but like lots of software companies are building space lamps when the market just wants a pull string light. Lots of service companies are going crazy with loyalty and rewards and points when people just want their laundry dropped off every other Sunday. Like, keep it simple, man. Like, I mean, guys, like the reality is, and I know it's easy to say be customer led. It's easy to say that. It's hard to do it. But the reality is, like, once you start to understand your ideal customer profile, you understand your market or your niche space that you are fulfilling and providing a clear need, right? Um, just continue to keep it simple and continue to make sure that you're sort of following the things that the customer wants. It's very, very common for businesses to do that. And it's something that for our listeners, you want to be careful about kind of how that looks. Um, Patrick, I'd love to jump into the fourth and final pillar of feedback. Spend a minute or two talking about how you leverage or over the last 10 years, how you guys have gotten really good at, to this point, and a good segue here, managing your customer feedback specifically from your clients. And I'm going to give you a two-part here because I imagine you guys got to get your client feedback, but then you got to get your clients' customers' feedback, or so like there's a little bit of a dual-sided part here. And then I'd love to ask you the same question on the employee side too, man. So spend a couple minutes talking about your customer and client feedback and employee feedback and sort of how you guys leverage that and use it to continue to get better and sharper and tighter every single solitary day.
Sure. So, first off, I'd say the thing to know about Hallmark Business Connections is that we are a market back company, even from our founding. So Hallmark did not decide to get into this space just organically by itself. It didn't wake up one day and decide, yeah, Hallmark Business Connection sounds like a great business. Let's go launch that. They started it because businesses came to Hallmark and said, hey, we would like these products and services. Can you please make them? Can you please provide them? And Hallmark had the foresight to say, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We're going to get into that space, and the rest is history. But that founding principle has stayed in the business consistently, and everything that we do, all of our products and services, all of our digital products, all of our enabling technology has been market back. It's been things that our customers or the market has shown to us to say, hey, you should go do this. And we've said, that sounds like a great idea. We're going to go enable that. And it served us so, so well over time. That's not to say from time to time we don't also take that feedback, evolve it, iterate it, and bring forth a little bit of an evolved perspective that we think might be better. But 80 for 20, that's a founding way that we take that feedback and use it in all of our underlying business practices. To your point, our clients' customers' feedback, it's essential, right? Most of our clients, there's two ways that they'll measure us, right? Quantitative and qualitative. From a quantitative perspective, it's a retailer, they're thinking about our product driving incremental sales. For an insurance agency, they're looking at reducing churn rate, right? Reducing attrition. Call centers, they're doing post-interaction surveys, and they're saying, hey, did you get a Hallmark card after you talked to our customer? How did it make you feel? Does it change your perception of the utility or the bank or whoever it is that is using that product and that service? But so that's the quantitative piece, but there's also the qualitative piece, which has been really profound. It's the thing that when I started at Hallmark Business Connections, I would have never believed was true. But now that I've been here and I've seen it happen so many times, I mean, practically every week, it's so obvious to me why it works, and I've been converted into a believer, as you might expect. Just an example of what I'm talking about is we work with a gas provider here in the Midwest called Spire. It's a large natural gas provider that's a conglomeration of a bunch of natural gas companies over the last 10 to 20 years. They use our care product in their call centers, right? I think they've got probably hundreds of users of that tool every single day. And so when their reps have a conversation with someone, they're trained to listen for certain key moments. They're trained to listen for the person saying it's their birthday, or maybe they see that it is in their CRM system, or the person shares that they had a loss in the family recently, and that might be why they're calling in, right? They want to change the billing account name because their husband or their wife passed away. All of these kinds of both business and life touch points, they're trained to listen for them, and then they follow up afterwards with a Hallmark card, right? Using our care solution. And the card is always a very focused relationship touch point to say, hey, just want you to know, this is John from Spire, and I so appreciate that you called in. And if there's anything we can do to help you in the future, you can always reach out to us, right? Something like that. And this story I always love. It's one that's stuck around with us for years, but I promise it's one of thousands that we have. We After a interaction like I just described, right? A Spire customer called into Spire. They got a card afterwards. They called into a local radio show. I think it was in Atlanta. They have a radio show every single. They had a segment every week where folks can give a shout out, right? They call in and I want to shout someone out, and they're doing a great job in our community. And someone called in and said, hey, I want to tell this story about this card that I got from my gas utility company. And they spent probably 5 minutes explaining the situation, which I think was, they'd had some hardship. They were concerned they weren't going to be able to pay their bill, and they just were calling in to say, hey, can you help me out? Right? I promise I want to pay, but I just need some help. And they had gotten a card afterwards, expressing the company's thought that they hope that person gets back on it and they're going to stick by their side. The whole experience from end to end was so incredible. And the Hallmark card was like this perfect little cherry on top that brought it all through and helped the customer realize that Spire truly was trying to be there for her right in that moment. It wasn't just like, we have a billing program that will help you stay on top of your bills. It was like, no, we truly are trying to be there for you as a person. And to hear her talk about the product and the experience for just minutes on end and hear the radio show hosts, respond back like, wow, that is incredible. It reminded us, right? And because all of us in our day-to-day business lives, we can forget the power of what we're doing sometimes,
Absolutely, man. Absolutely,
right? But
100%.
it brought it home, and it reminded both our clients at Spire as well as us that, you know, if this interaction's happening this one time, but this person is so profoundly moved to have taken this action and to tell this story, you're making hundreds of important touch points all the time, right? As you send those cards out, right? If there's one that you find out, there's a 100x that you're missing, and it's a wonderful story, and it's that kind of feedback that our customers on the qualitative side, right? Again, back to my feedback analogy here. Quantitative matters, but so does the qualitative. And our customers thrive on getting that qualitative feedback back so they can understand exactly what this product is doing and building better relationships with their customers. And the good news for us is that practically all of our customers see this feedback routinely, right? They hear from their customers, whether it's handwritten notes, calls into the call center, posts on social media, right? Saying, oh, I got this in the mail. This is so incredible. Thank you so much. How unique is this? Right? All those kinds of things, which is wonderful, and we love to see it. You asked about employee feedback. Hallmark, I think, is a bit of a unique place, to be fair, right? Our culture really thrives on having a deep employee connection, and it has from the very beginning. And that's probably because our founders, the Hall family, they founded the company and they still own it today. It's been privately family held through its entire 100 and how many years now, 15, 20 years now
Wow.
as a
That's
company
incredible.
overall. Yeah. And their values as a family are embedded in the company. And so, I never like to say, hey, we're like a family, because the truth is that it is a business. It's not a family, but it's about, from a cultural perspective, excuse me, it's about as close to a family as you might ever imagine. And what we try to do from a leadership perspective is consistently ask for feedback from our employees and then be very clear both about what the feedback was and really publicize it and talk about it, as well as just commit to, here's the action that we're going to take. The good news for us is last year, as an example, for our primary corporate staff here at Hallmark Business Connections, our engagement rating was, I think, somewhere around the net 85% or something like that, right? Our employees reported back that they were highly engaged. They loved their work, right? They felt really good about their employment. So we didn't have a ton of issues to work on, but there were a few, right? There were some areas where we said, okay, clearly you're telling us we can be better in this space. And I just view it as a leader, it's up to me to own that accountability, right? And to be able to go back to our employees and say, we heard it, and we either are or are not going to take specific action. And in the areas where we are, we're going to tell you what we're going to do. And you guys can tell us if you think we're doing a good job or not, and trying to push those kinds of additional steps forward, or stand up new offerings, or whatever the different thing might be. But it's worked. I mean, that kind of feedback loop, that honest conversation, and that family culture, if you will, is just, it's fairly special for Hallmark, having worked at a number of different places, and obviously having several coworkers and folks at Hallmark who've worked at many different kinds of companies. When you work at Hallmark, you realize that it is a fairly different place. It's going to be a unique time in your career to be able to be in that space and to enjoy that culture. And it's something we just really work on trying to protect as best we can. I mentioned the word earlier, that we try as best we can to have an intentional culture at HBC, meaning we want to have a culture that is open, is diverse, is welcoming, but is also specifically focused on driving the outcomes that we need as a business, right? And trying to make sure that we're serving our customers first and foremost as our number one stakeholder, our second stakeholder, our employees, and making sure they feel like they're engaged and welcomed and they're enjoying their work. And then our third stakeholder, obviously, is our owners at Hallmark. And so we're pretty focused on making sure that we're driving that culture intentionally. But thankfully, we're in a wonderful place, and it's a great place to work.
I love it. Number one, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on the CXChronicles podcast and sharing your story. Super cool business, guys. For our listeners, we'll throw it in the show notes, but you need to check out And think about this as another solution, guys. I know it's so damn easy to just want to sit on the desk every single solitary day and just keep throwing digital things out in the world. I do it too. I'm sure Patrick does, but like, leave this episode thinking about what are some intentional, specific milestone moments in your business. I don't care what your business is, because there's probably a million different ways across your specific individual journey that this is yet another tool that you can add to your toolkit that allows you to have a personalized touch, a differentiated touch, something new, something different. And again, guys, when everyone else is going to keep ripping towards this AI, and technical, and automated, maybe not that bad of an idea to have a tangible, real thing in the world that you can pull out of your mailbox or get dropped onto the desk, and as a way to think about something that you're doing. So, Patrick McCullough, this has been an absolute pleasure. Before I let you go, anybody that's listening to today's episode, if they want to learn, if they want to either reach out to you or if they want to reach out to your team to learn more about Hallmark Business Connections, where can we point them towards, my friend?
Hallmarkbusiness.com, hallmarkbusiness.com. That's the place to go. You can learn about our products and solutions there. You can reach out to our team to learn more. And obviously, as I mentioned earlier, if you're just looking to use some of our products and services and in your day-to-day business work as a salesperson, or you're as an executive and you want to step up your communications, all of our underlying product services are also available to use on hallmarkbusiness.com for those kinds of engagements. So that's the place to go. But I appreciate you having me on today. It was a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
It was our pleasure, Patrick. Thanks so much for joining the CX Chronicles podcast, my friend. Be sure to check out the CXC website. And as always, find us on any of your favorite podcast players, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and more.